Hey YouTube, this is Wheelchair21 and this is the rolling review for SHF Figuarts Iron Man 2. Iron Man Mark 6. The Mark 6 Figuart has finally been released, and as you can see it has specs for an arc reactor on the cover of the box. Iron Man, the actual figure, Tom She Nations logo, a Marvel logo, all this cool stuff. And on the back it shows him with the War Machine mold. Very wonderful box design, great overall, and let's go into what accessories this figure does contain. As you can see, this figure comes with 3 additional sets of hands, a thruster flap for the back of his shoulders and upper torso, 2 regular beam effects for repulsor blasts, and 2 regular hand flight effects for repulsor blasts, along with repulsor blast for jet propulsion for his feet for flight capabilities. Overall, wonderful accessories, and let's get down to how you can display said figure with all of its accessories and swap and switch for plating. First off, let's go into the basic points of articulation on this Figuart. Now, as you can see, for the figure itself, it's nice and glossed with this beautiful, like, metallic-y red paint job all over coated, really putting out the actual details of the Iron Man Mark 6 armor, along with some nice gold. The only issues are there is no glow effect for the arc reactor like you would see with the usual Hasbro figures or with the eyes. It's just basic, as if it's inactive, as if it's not actually able to, live in a sense, as most, marks do with the lights to show it's actually been active. Now, for its points over actual articulation, though, it has a shoulder flap, basic shoulder, elbow, and sadly, its wrist articulation is just a ball joint. So the only ability you got is a swivel joint. Now, a cool effect is this fist/forearm flap actually has a joint, and it's removable to go to the other pieces of its arms. Now, his abs actually has 2 points, and this piece right here around the waistline is a separate piece altogether, which sometimes gets lodged. Actually, it's a 3-segmented chest. It's very not noticeable as much. And he actually has a waist articulation, so waist, 2 ab joints, actual has the basic points of articulation in the leg, has actual die-cast feet nonetheless, has a toe joint, and overall looks very amazing. I mean, has the basic points of articulation that a normal Figuart normally has. However, the neck does have one difference than usual. It just goes back and forth, and the head sways side to side. And the head itself is the actual ball joint, which pops into the neck. So, if you were expecting to switch out heads with any other figures, don't expect that anytime actually soon, because there are not that many, I think, Figuarts that actually have the ball joint built into the head itself. Overall, this has several points of articulation and a beautiful paint job nonetheless. Now, to start displaying said figure for, say, repulsor blasts, you obviously, as mentioned, know that you have to remove these pieces on the forearm and fists before putting on its repulsor blast-like hands. Now, Iron Man himself has 3 sets, one to display the actual repulsor blasts, and a few that show its very many arc reactor bits that are built into the hands itself. Now, as you can see, I've already reassembled the hands and applied already one of the arc reactor offensive beam effects. Now, as you can see, this is a nice clear plastic rubbery material, which actually has a bit of a flame effect towards the spiral end for when the attack is released, which actually pegs onto the hands for flight or offensive maneuvers. As you can see, this is a very wonderful figure accessory, as it is a nice, really good beam effect part, and is really easy to display. It has nice, really just spiral flame effects, and is overall looks realistic, almost realistic to the actual thing. And when applying it, you just place it right exactly on the pegs. Now, these things are about probably 2.5 inches long. Really good beam effect parts and display pieces, since these kind of fizzle out from being beams. Like from the original comic books, they're actual like long range like beams. In the movies, they're more like, in a sense, either the higher they're charged, the more physical the entity is. It's more like a flash bolt burst. And overall, it looks really great. It just, there is no real blast effect for, like, you know, if you're hitting off of, say, an enemy, or to put on any other figure to make it look like you're actually doing damage. Right now, it looks more like he's just catching 2 fire blasts, or ki blasts, and just about to, like, deflect them off of his hands rather than actually emit them. Sadly, his flight capability, you know, propulsion systems, look quite a bit better. And to display it, you're actually going to need a Tamashii stage, since to fly, you're going to need to plug in 2 giant flame burst effects to the bottom of his feet, which, as you can see, are easy to peg in, just as similar as the effects on his hands plug onto his hands. Now, with a Tamashii stage, I'm going to be personally using my Kamen Rider Den-O stage. To actually display said figure in flight mode, you're going to need to put a figure in the Tamashii stage and apply all the parts correctly. And we're somewhat back. As you can see, the spiral flame effects actually look like a propulsion system. The bigger ones look magnificent because of the more white flame effect trailing in. It's actually more visible and easy to see on the eyes, whereas the small ones for his hands are not as easy. Now, this is more or less a pose that is usually taken when he's trying to stop himself from colliding into, say, an object, or to force himself back to repel himself from, say, a bigger object of sorts, like when he's fighting, say, Ironmonger, or let's just say the Kree, the Skrulls, whatever you want to call them, the Chitauri in the movies. Now, to actually, though, make him look like he's regularly flying, he does have some paneling and plating, which are actually found on the back of his calves and shoulders to his spine. Now, this is a wonderful display nonetheless, with the effects making it look like he's bursting off or repelling himself off of something. But to actually get the full features of flight capability, you have to really undergo a whole reemergence of the character, for the paneling itself is really built in on the calves, and you gotta slowly take it out, where these parts are segmented, 2 pieces that you pull apart and reveals the actual true form of the figure. The easiest way to get it to start coming out, honestly, is to pull up from the sides and work your way off to get the panelings off for each side. And that's the easiest thing, or you might end up breaking the figure, but if you pull off, say, the back piece first, before actually taking off the long, elongated pieces that show his, in a sense, propulsion propellers, in a sense, the plating that propels him, or at least keeps him aerodynamically functional. They do kind of get jammed since they are segmented and rectangular. And as for the calves, they are some parts the hardest to get off because they're angularly applied into the back of the calf, revealing this little area of where the boots, in a sense, connect to them. Alright, and we're back. Well, as you can see, this, to display Iron Man in his flight capabilities, pretty much, you have to just put him prone, and just place all the blast effects, and replace all of his plating, which is 6 minor parts, and it's an overall nice feature. You just plug them in, you pop them out, plug them back in with new plating. Really nice work done, more or less, not on the calf one, since they're just cover flaps for wind resistance, and these fins right here look a lot better for how they actually look, built for being aerodynamic and redesigned for being these like shoulder and back clavicle padding material going right into the figure itself. The flight, like in a sense, propulsion system looks overall really amazing and looks really spot on practically to how the design is in the actual movies. Now, this thing, though, I will admit, you really do need a better Tamashii stage than a regular figure stage for displaying him on flight. You would probably need to actually use a robotic stage to display Iron Man in his actual flight capabilities. Overall, it is really well done. I mean, it's just really magnificent. It's one of the best Figuarts ever made at this time for how intriguingly new it is, in a sense, for not being an anime or, you know, something from Kamen Rider or Super Sentai. This one is a standalone and by far one of the best I've seen to be a standalone Figuart. I really wish I had War Machine to display and review for you, but I sadly don't. I do recommend you get this if you're a real Iron Man fan, or if you're a real Marvel fan, if you're a real fan of the SHF Figuarts. For this is really just a wonderful piece to display overall. The matte and gloss red and gold, the points of articulation, the accessories, even though they are small and minimal, they really go well with this figure. Could they have added maybe a few more pieces? Maybe, but it could have hurted the figure quite a bit, like his actual missile launchers from the shoulders, or the spiral grenades or whatever he had that came out of his wrist, the small miniature blast effects, and the laser beams that were like his bladed energy weapons. It could have probably hurt the actual production for this figure overall. This is really a very basic mold. You can buy this figure probably from hobby shops, purchase it online from online retailers that sell Figuarts, and that's all I can really say on how you can obtain this figure. You won't find it in regular retailers. Overall, this is really worth the purchase. I recommend you check it out. Other than that, you can like, favorite, comment, subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm on Instagram at taja_Doyle. Over at Hirotaku and The Broken Infinite. I work on several podcasts. I host a few of them. You can find them all pretty much listed at Hirotaku. You can follow them all at Hirotaku. And you can check the description below for other friends that I'm associated with and all of my associated accounts, such as my Twitter, my Instagram, my Hirotaku, and other places I'm associated with, or who I'm associated with in general, like Project, Darkon, Metal, well, I should say Visible Ninja on YouTube, Sound Out, Gundam Legacy Extreme, and many more. As for now, Tony Stark has to go fight crime with the Avengers, save the planet, all that stuff, because, hey, he's one of Earth's mightiest heroes. He's the Armored Avenger, and we gotta fly the hell out of here. So I'm gonna put the suit on, and I'm gonna go outside. This has been Wheelchair 21 of Hirotaku.